In this video, I'm going to look at the Waves CLA 76 compression plugin. Rather than cover everything it can do, which would take forever, I'm going to see what it can do for a live recording of snare drum that I made in Abbey Road Studio 3 with drummer Joe Clancy. As you probably know, the CLA 76 is an emulation of the Universal Audio 1176, which is one of the most classic compressors around. The 1176 is good. The 1176 had a number of revisions over the years, notably when the faceplate changed from blue to black. I'm just looking at the blue version, although the CLA 76 can emulate the black version as well. One thing you'll see in this video is that I like to explore the extremes of what equipment and software can do. My feeling is that you have to step over the edge to know where the edge is, and when you've explored all of the options, you'll be in a better place to find exactly the right setting for the job in hand. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, let's dive in. Here we have the Waves CLA 76, which is a plug-in emulation of the Universal Audio 1176 compressor. So we're going to hear what it can do on snare drum. So we'll start off by hearing the snare drum just by itself. What we hear from that is that this is quite a clean recording. It's a very snappy sound. We hear a lot of the strike of the drum, maybe not so much of the shell of the drum. We can certainly hear the other instruments of the drum kit leaking through into the snare mic, and we can hear some of the studio ambience in the background. So let's listen to that again, just the snare drum by itself. Okay, this clean style of recording would be suitable for many types of music, but we might on occasion want something that's a little bit more lively, a little bit more interesting, so we should be able to do that with the Waves CLA 76 compressor. Right now I've got it set to fairly neutral settings. I've got an input of 24, output of 24, attack of 1 and release of 1. What you'll notice with this compressor is that as you turn the attack control clockwise, then you get a shorter attack time. This is unusual for a compressor because normally it works the other way around. And it's the same for the release as well. As you increase the release value to 7, you get a shorter release time. In a sense, this is a good idea because as these times shorten, you get more of the compression effect. So basically, clockwise means more. Clockwise means more. We have the ratio control all the way from 4:1 to 20:1. And here we have the meter, which I've got switched into gain reduction. That's the most useful purpose for this meter. So we can see from moment to moment how much the compressor is bringing the level of the signal down. So let's just try on these neutral settings, see what difference the compressor makes to the snare drum. I'll switch it in and out as the snare drum plays. What we can hear from this is with these settings, the compressor isn't doing all that much to the sound. It's maybe tightening down the actual initial strike of the drum a little bit. It's maybe bringing up the level of the studio ambience a little bit, but it's all really very small amounts. What we'll find, however, is that as we adjust these controls, we'll get a much bigger difference. I'm going to start with the release control. In a sense, the release control is the heart and soul of the compressor, and this is the control that sometimes, or quite often, can make the most difference to the sound. So let's have a play with this and see what it can do. What we can hear from that is that a short release setting allows the studio ambience to come up in level between the snare drum hits. Where we have a very long release setting, it takes longer than the time between hits for the ambience to come back up again. So as a result, we don't really hear it that prominently. As we shorten the release time, with a very short release, the ambience comes up almost instantaneously. And we might find that there's a setting in between somewhere where we can hear the ambience pumping up in level. Let's have a go and see if we can find that. So we have a much more lively sound to the snare drum here, and once we've got a useful release setting, we can start working on the attack and just see what difference that makes. So with the extreme setting, you might say that it's taking out too much of the attack of the drum. It's really clamping down on it almost instantaneously. So there's probably a happy medium in there where it sounds compressed, which is what we want to achieve, without taking too much away from the snap of the drum. So let's just try and find that happy medium. I think that's a reasonable compromise because we can hear that the compression is having an effect, but it's not being too distracting and changing the sound of the snare drum too much. Let's try the ratio control and see what kind of a difference that can make. So with the ratio set to 20:1 and the attack and release set to their shortest values, it really has changed the nature of this snare drum completely. So in between these extreme settings and the uncompressed sound, we've really got a very wide range of sound textures to play with. So let's just hear that again. As you've probably seen, these are like radio buttons that when you press one, the others, whatever's pressed previously, pops out again. But with the original 1176 unit, it was possible to press all four buttons simultaneously and get another interesting sound quality. So we've got an all button here, so we can in effect press all of the buttons at the same time. I have to say that this gives it a little bit of a distorted sound, and this is what you can expect from this plugin and from the original unit. You might like it, you might not like it, but it's there as an option and you can use it or not use it as you please. So let's just see what that does. So actually it's not a bad sound. It's a little bit harsh, but for certain types of music that could be exactly what you want. So it's another tool to be able to use when you're using compression. Let's just have a quick play with the attack and release controls with the All button pressed. Okay, we'll go back to a 20:1 setting, so more of a normal compression style here. The next control, which really does make a difference to the sound, is the input control. So we'll just have a little bit of a play with that. We'll start on a fairly low input level setting. We've really got quite a crazy sound going on there, but it's the amount of difference, it's incredible between that and the original sound. The amazing thing is that I'm looking at the peak output level meter of my digital audio workstation software, and it really hasn't changed all that much. It's only gone up about a decibel or so between having the compressor switched out and having it switched in with this setting, but the sound suddenly has become huge in comparison. I'm going to say that's probably too much for most purposes, but if you want a really lively and interesting drum track, that's an interesting place to go and explore. Let's just pull the settings back to get something a bit more normal. So what we have there is what I think we could call a really compressed and affected drum sound. Of course, in a real-life project, you'd have to consider this with the other instruments of the drum kit, the other drums, and also the other instruments in the whole mix. So you can't just judge this on the snare drum alone. But this is an interesting test to explore and see what a compression plugin can do. And other compression plugins and other hardware compressors will sound slightly different. So you've got really got a huge range of sounds to choose from. So this is my idea of what a fairly heavily compressed drum sound should be like. So there we have it, the Waves CLA 76 emulating the Universal Audio 1176 compressor. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and I'll leave some links in the description so you can explore the 1176 on the web further. I'm David Mellor, Course Director of Audio Masterclass. Come to audiomasterclass.com and take a look at our range of online courses on music production and sound engineering. Thank you for listening.